A subtle shift happened in the last few years. We stopped carrying cash, and with it, we lost the physical sensation of spending. According to the Atlanta Fed's 2024 survey, the average person carries just $67, down from $81 in 2023. We tap screens, we subscribe, and we automate our lives away. A prevailing mantra in modern productivity culture is to stop being so cheap. We are told repeatedly to buy back our time, to outsource the mundane, and to optimize our schedules for higher pursuits. It sounds like enlightenment, but for most people it operates as a silent financial trap. When you outsource your daily frictions, those time-saving conveniences slowly calcify over time. They transform from one-off, occasional luxuries into recurring fixed overheads. This is the invisible architecture of modern financial stagnation. It is not about buying too many lattes or upgrading your phone too often. It is about a structural chain reaction that begins with a severe time deficit. You have no time left in the day, so you pay for a substitute to handle your life. That substitute requires a subscription model, a service fee plus a delivery charge and a tip. Consider the reality of the modern household structure. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported in 2024 that 49.6% of married couple families are dual income. Both partners are trading 40 to 50 hours a week for capital. They are fundamentally exhausted by Wednesday evening. When a household is severely time poor, paying for convenience does not feel like a frivolous choice. It feels like an absolute survival mechanism. You order the groceries online because spending an hour navigating the aisles on a Sunday feels physically impossible. You pay for the dog walker because the evening commute takes far too long. But let us look at what is fundamentally driving this chronic time deficit in the first place. People genuinely try to be financially responsible by optimizing their two largest expenses. The 2024 Consumer Expenditures Survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that housing costs the average American consumer $26,266 a year, consuming 33.4% of their total spending. To keep that massive housing cost down, people naturally move further away from urban centers or their places of employment. However, that spatial trade-off directly inflates the second largest expense category, transportation. The exact same 2024 data shows transportation consuming 17% of total spending, amounting to $13,318 a year. To see exactly how this second rent silently consumes a household, let us run the numbers on a hypothetical family. We will call them the Millers. The Millers bring home a combined net income of $8,000 a month. They considered themselves highly financially prudent when they bought their home. Their mortgage, property taxes, and home insurance come to $2,500 a month. Their transportation costs, including two modest car payments, gas and auto insurance, equal $1,200 a month. Subtracting those two major structural pillars, they have $4,300 left for the month. On paper, this looks comfortable. Yet, the commute that required those two cars steals roughly 2 hours from their day, every single day. Time poverty is not just a metaphor for feeling busy. It is a measurable economic state of being. A 2025 study by the Levy Economics Institute found that roughly 39% of single adults experience actual time poverty, lacking enough hours in the week to handle basic personal and household needs. The Millers are firmly embedded in this exhausted demographic, and they receive very little corporate help to offset this daily friction. The Bureau of Labor Statistics noted in 2024 that only 10% of private sector workers had access to subsidized commuting benefits. The friction and the cost are placed entirely on the worker. So, the Millers start buying back their time, adopting the conveniences they believe are utterly necessary to survive the week without collapsing. They pay for a bi-weekly house cleaner, which is $300 a month. They heavily utilize grocery delivery services and meal kits, adding an extra $400 a month over what they would spend doing it themselves. They contract a lawn service for $150 a month. Let us look back at their household ledger. That $4,300 they had left over is now down to $3,450. Now, a perspective shift is necessary here. The things we quickly classify as conveniences often blur the line into absolute necessities, especially when dependents are involved. Child Care Aware of America reported in 2024 that the average cost of childcare reached $13,128 a year, marking a staggering 29% increase since 2020. It is not just the baseline cost that is alarming, it is the aggressive upward trajectory. By October 2025, the Bank of America Institute found that childcare inflation was running at plus 5.2% year over year, growing 1.5 times faster than overall inflation. Let us bring this back to the Millers one more time. They have one toddler currently in daycare. That average cost translates to about $1,100 a month. Subtracting that from their remaining $3,450 leaves them with $2,350 a month. From this shrinking pool, they still need to pay for utilities, healthcare premiums, basic household goods, student loans, and clothing. If those baseline non-negotiable living expenses total $2,000, the Millers are left with just $350 at the absolute end of the month. The Millers are not poor because they lack a solid income. This dynamic is not universally identical for everyone, and context is incredibly important to maintain here. This depends entirely on your earning capacity relative to the direct cost of the convenience. Reasonable people also disagree on what exactly constitutes a lazy luxury versus a basic necessity for maintaining mental health. Furthermore, this structural trap does not apply if you have a robust, localized support network. There is a very fair and common counter-argument to the idea that buying back your time is a trap. The argument goes that human energy is finite, and by stubbornly refusing to pay for conveniences, you inevitably burn out. Burnout leads to stalled career progression, medical issues, and ultimately, a much lower lifetime earning potential. From this perspective, the second rent is actually a necessary operating expense for the business of you. This is a highly defensible position. Investing in your physical and mental bandwidth can undoubtedly yield significant long-term dividends. However, the flaw in this argument is assuming that the time bought back is automatically allocated to high-leverage rest or deep, productive work. Often, the hour saved by a meal kit is simply absorbed by digital fatigue or watching television. Another strong counter-argument points out that the systemic nature of our modern economy leaves workers absolutely no other option. It posits that severe wage stagnation, lack of social safety nets, and demanding corporate cultures are entirely to blame, not the individual's choice to order a pizza on a tired Wednesday night. It suggests that critiquing someone for buying convenience is simply victim-blaming a deeply exhausted working class. I hear this perspective clearly, and I agree that the macroeconomic landscape is incredibly unforgiving right now. The structural pressures are real, relentless, and exhausting. Yet, while acknowledging the systemic fault is intellectually honest, it does not actually solve the individual's monthly cash flow problem. The reason this second rent sneaks up on us so effectively is due to the total abstraction of modern payments. When we handed over $20 in paper for a service decades ago, our brains registered a physical loss. It triggered a mild, necessary pain response that naturally paced our consumption. Today, the friction of payment has been completely eradicated by design. We authorize recurring monthly deductions with a passing facial scan. We subscribe to a software or a meal service and simply forget it exists in the background. The time-saving conveniences we adopt do not feel like active, daily purchases. They feel like passive environmental conditions. This automated extraction creates a terrifying financial fragility. When your cost of merely existing is heavily subsidized by paid conveniences, any disruption to your income becomes catastrophic. You have built an entire lifestyle architecture that requires a massive, continuous velocity of cash flow just to remain stable. You cannot take a lower-paying, less stressful job because your infrastructure of conveniences demands a high income. You are working harder purely to pay for the things that supposedly allow you to work harder. Let us critically examine the "stop being cheap" narrative propagated by modern wealth influencers. The core message usually implies that wealthy people do not mow their own lawns, clean their own toilets, or drive themselves to the airport. The conclusion drawn is that if you want to be wealthy, you must act wealthy by valuing your time at an exorbitant hourly rate. But this reverses the actual cause and effect of wealth building. Wealthy people buy these conveniences because they have already accumulated surplus capital that generates passive income to cover the costs. Their assets pay for their conveniences. The middle class, however, is being told to buy the conveniences out of their active labor income, hoping it somehow magically manifests into wealth. It is a profound misallocation of capital. Let us revisit the Millers one last time to illustrate this compounding opportunity cost. Remember the $850 a month they were spending on the house cleaner, the lawn service, and the food delivery? Let us assume that through immense discipline and a brutal restructuring of their weekend, they decide to reclaim their time and manage those tasks themselves. They cut the conveniences entirely. That is $850 a month injected directly back into their free cash flow. If they were to invest that $850 every single month into a standard index fund, yielding an average annual return of 7%, the math becomes staggering over time. Over 10 years, that reclaimed convenience money grows to over $146,000. The Millers were not just paying $850 a month. They were surrendering hundreds of thousands of dollars in future wealth for the temporary relief of not having to vacuum the living room or chop vegetables on a Tuesday night. The hidden second rent does not just consume your current paycheck. It quietly confiscates your retirement.